much attention from the FBI, the security agencies, wherever we came to the US. And there was an attempt to secretly hire my engineer behind my back.
Pavel Durov.
And we turn now to the arrest in Paris of Pavel Durov. French authorities allege that Durov's platform is complicit in aiding money launderers, drug traffickers, and the spread of child pornography.
11 years ago, back to 2013, a white Mercedes-Benz was filmed in St. Petersburg in Russia. As it sped through a traffic checkpoint, the driver refused to stop for a traffic inspection, injuring a policeman badly in the process. While this might seem like an ordinary accident, it became a major issue both inside and outside of Russia, because the driver was charged by the police was Pavel Durov, who is a renowned Russian entrepreneur. Durov was famous for founding VKontakte, the largest social media platform in Russia at the time. The case took a surprising turn when Durov claimed that he was not driving the car and that the case was completely fabricated. And there was a widespread belief that the accusation was a setup by the Russian government, which was very upset with Durov for refusing to share the user data. All this pressure led Durov to leave Russia permanently. But however, after his arrest by the French authorities last month, the Russian authorities began to defend Durov in saying that he was a victim of a French-American conspiracy. This shift that Russia made towards Durov is attributed to Telegram's significance. Telegram now is one of the most important applications globally, with nearly 1 billion users. Became popular for its lack of oversight. This tiny specific feature is actually what made a lot of users to shift from other apps like WhatsApp and Messenger to Telegram. But this lack of control also made the app a hotbed for criminals, causing concern among many governments. In this episode, we are gonna discuss the actual story of Telegram and what was actually the reason of Durov's arrest by the French authorities, and why Telegram remains controversial despite its widespread appeal. I'm here Hassan and this is Scurry the Mysterious YouTube channel. Let's dive in. Back in 2008, the President Putin had completed 2 consecutive terms, and under the Russian constitution he could not run for a 3rd term. But guess what he did? He made a deal with Dmitry Medvedev, who was his closest advisor, to run for the president, but with Putin appointed as a prime minister afterward. This arrangement happened exactly as planned. In 2011, with Medvedev's presidential term ending, Putin announced his candidacy for the 2012 election. Although Medvedev could have run for a 2nd term, but instead he supported Putin. This specific action angered Putin's opponents, especially after the December 2011 legislative election, which were accused of being rigged in favor of Putin's United Russian Party. After the parliamentary elections, tens of thousands of Russians demonstrated in the capital of Moscow, and that was described as the largest in the Russian Federation history. While the government was trying to control the demonstrations, it sent a squad belonging to the Russian Federal Security Service, armed with weapons and automatic rifles, to arrest someone who was residing in one of the residential apartments in St. Petersburg city. Who do you think this person was? He was Pavel Durov, the founder of the social network VKontakte. Anyways, after an hour of waiting, the squad left without arresting Pavel Durov. Before I tell you why they left and why this release to Telegram, let me tell you first who is actually Pavel Durov. Back to 1984, Durov opened his eyes for the first time in Leningrad, and the name later changed to St. Petersburg. In his 40 years of age, his father took him with his older brother Nikolai Durov to Italy and lived there. But they didn't come back till the dissolution of the Soviet Union. After arriving to Russia, their father got them a computer. At this period of time, Pavel and his brother Nikolai, who was so brilliant in maths, they both learned programming and practiced it. Durov grew up and went to St. Petersburg College, which is considered one of the best colleges in the Russian Federation. Anyways, while he was studying, he used to have a friend that was just arrived from the United States. He showed him Facebook that was founded by Mark Zuckerberg. Due his experience as a programmer, he realized that he could simply make a Russian copy of it, because in the latest of 2006, he developed a platform called VKontakte, which was very similar to Facebook. The site was officially launched in 2007. Durov sought the help of his brother Nikolai to operate and manage it. The platform quickly became very famous among Russians, and within few months of its launch, the number of users reached 1 million users. And after 4 years exactly in 2011, the number reached 58 million users, including 35 million users inside Russia itself. This made Durov like a star inside Russia and abroad. Even the Western press called him the Russian Mark Zuckerberg. But although all the success of the platform that made him very famous, it also caused him a lot of problems that he faced. After the outbreak of demonstrations against Putin and Medvedev in the later 2011, the protesters were organizing themselves on the social networking sites, led by Facebook and VKontakte. In light of the outbreak of these demonstrations, the Russian Federal Security Service sent a message to VKontakte platform requesting the closure of 7 groups on the platform. Durov, as the head of the VKontakte, not only rejected the security official's request, but he published on X, former Twitter, a picture of the request with an image of a dog wearing a hoodie with its tongue sticking out, saying, "This is my response to the federal security request." On one hand, this movement was a challenge to the Russian security services, and on the other hand, it was an insult to them. The Russian security service sent a rapid intervention team to his apartment to arrest him. The forces were waiting for an hour, waiting for the order to break down the door, but likely to Durov, this never happened, so they left. While he was trapped inside the apartment hiding, he was trying to call his brother Nikolai to tell him about what's happening, but he realized that there was no safe way to communicate without monitoring the call. In that specific moment is where he came with the idea of creating a secure messaging application that is not a subject of the government surveillance. This idea is what became later the Telegram. But before Telegram came to existence, the Russian government, led by the President Putin, who returned to power in 2012, was trying with Durov in various ways in an effort to control the platform, with a user base that exceeded 200 million users in 2013, and all the data of these users is completely far from the hands of the government. In this context, the accident of the white Mercedes occurred in April 2013 that actually happened near to the VKontakte headquarters in St. Petersburg. The Russian authorities were not very hesitant in the brought charges for Durov. It said that he was driving a car registered in a name of a senior employee in the VKontakte. VKontakte, for its part, denied this accusation and said that this is completely impossible. Why? First of all, Durov does not have a car and he does not drive himself, as it said. But this did not prevent the authorities from storming the headquarters in St. Petersburg. They did not arrest him, but he was summoned for investigations, and he continued to refuse till he left Russia and settled in New York City in the United States. There, he took his time and focused on developing the Telegram application. What is interesting is that during the investigations of this case, a strange coincidence happened, which is that an investment fund linked to the Kremlin concealed from Durov's partners in the VKontakte most of their shares in the platform, which were close to 48%. Is this a coincidence, or was the accusation against Durov used to pressure his partners to sell their share? Conspiracy theorists see that this is not a coincidence. And what strengthened this possibility was that after all these shares were sold, the Mercedes case was settled and ended with a fine. Well, in my opinion, I believe that that was not a coincidence, because Durov returned to Russia and no one held him accountable. But still, this was not the end of the problems with the Russian government, but it actually was the beginning. Durov kept his position as the head of the VKontakte. During that, the allies of the Russian government bought most of the share, and now they became 88% compared to 12% for Durov. In this way, Putin's allies are in complete control from the platform. After Durov saw what happened, he surrendered and sold his share to someone close to the President Putin. And now they own 100% of the shares of the most popular platform in the whole Russia. Despite this, Durov maintained his position still as a president of the platform, but he was exiled by the board of the directions in April 2014. His story with the VKontakte ended here, but his journey began with the Telegram application, which will not continue in Russia. He left in 2014 and decided to never return. He took with him hundreds of millions of dollars that would help him to develop his new project. But before he left Russia, he took the citizenship of St. Kitts in the Nevis, when he and his brother bought the Caribbean passport after each of them paid $250,000 for the government fund. Just as the two worked on the VKontakte, they also worked on the Telegram. In 2014, the application announced that the number of its active monthly users exceeded 50 million. This number was small compared to WhatsApp, for example, because at the time WhatsApp was approaching 600 million users. While Durov was in his headquarters in Dubai in the UAE, the number rose strongly and became the most competitive to American applications such as WhatsApp and Messenger. Telegram excelled in many features, but the most interesting one was the ultra privacy for the secret conversations, which means that the content control was completely very weak compared to other applications. In one hand, this feature was completely good for many users, but in the other hand, the Telegram is exposed to attack and criticism from many governments around the world, because the weakness of this censorship was an ideal means of communication for outlaws in all their forms, and they can almost publish anything, whatever it may be. The funny thing here is that these features helped the application become very popular, but worrying the Russian government that just in a few years ago they had finished with the VKontakte and now Telegram had appeared again, and Durov is outside of the country and completely out of their reach. After the failure of the government's blockade of the app, it completely banned the application in Russia in 2018. But what's also funny here is that during the ban, the government unintentionally blocked millions of private domains for many private companies in Russia. And this was so embarrassing for the country because banning Telegram technically was not effective. That's why in 2020 it announced the cancellation of the ban on the application after they admitted that banning the application was technically impossible. Days passed and Russia, as a government and an army, became in need of the application that was completely very effective in the most important event that's happening right now. And of course, it's the Russian-Ukrainian war, which by the way lasted from February 2022 till this moment in 2024. The war between the two countries can be described as the Telegram war, because the two sides use the application to communicate with the masses. The two armies publish the results of their battles on the platform without them thinking about deleting their content, no matter how violent it is. The politicians on both sides also use the platform to communicate with the masses. Telegram has become the only way to know what is actually happening on the ground, compared to other applications such as Facebook, Instagram, and even X that are subject to very strict surveillance. These days, Telegram was subjected to many criticisms, most of which were about the weakness of the content control, in a way that it allowed illegal practices to take place on it. These accusations have affected the owner, Pavel Durov, since the beginning of its creation, but no one arrested him despite traveling around the world with his 4 nationalities. The first one is the Russian citizenship, and of course that he got while he was born there. The second one is the St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship, which he bought in 2014. The third one is the Emirati citizenship, which he obtained in February 2021. And the fourth one is the French citizenship, which he obtained in the same year. But last August 2024, exactly in the evening, Durov's private plane had arrived at the airport of Paris-Le Bourget, but before leaving the airport, he got arrested. The arrest took place as a part of a judicial investigation opened by the French authorities last July against Durov. The investigation revolves around accusations that the Telegram's current policy allows the spread of illegal activities on it, such as drug trafficking, child sexual abuse, fraud, and money laundering. But anyways, Durov was released after paying $5 million bail. But this brings us to the question of the episode. Are you for or against completely weak control of content, even if it's illegal content? And what's your opinion about the Telegram's current policy? Does it have more advantages or more disadvantages? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, because I'm gonna read them. If you like this episode, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. And wait for the new videos. See you next time.